Introduction.
Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
It is my privilege to introduce the next speaker, who is specialist in communication leadership with over 2 decades of experience in the same. I welcome Mr.Koka Prasad, an award-winning speaker. He teaches and conducts communication and leadership workshops, mentors and coaches speakers. He is the first person from the state of Qatar to win the country-level contest 7 times. That is 2008, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15 and 16. Also, he is the first person from Middle East to win the international speech contest 5 times and competing at the semi-finals of the World Championship of Public Speaking held at Canada, America and Kuala Lumpur. I present to you Mr.Koka Prasad.
By and what are the values you leave behind is a question I often ponder. Mr. Chairman, BNI members and visitors, good morning to you all.
Good morning.
When I was a teenager at home, I had a roommate. It was my grandmother. A woman frail as a flower shared my room while my brothers and sisters shared an adjacent room. At more than 80 years old, my grandmother was a vibrant vintage woman. She was my constant companion. At the dinner table, believe me, she was loud. She would often stick her finger into her mouth to dislodge food stuck between her dentures. She would even dislodge the dentures into the plate. It freaked my mother out. Back in the bedroom is where she took center stage. She had nice things to tell me. She was better than the TV. At bedtime, she would take me on a journey to faraway fairy lands where everything was bright and beautiful. And at night, she snored like a bear. It began with a calendo and progressed into a crescendo. And sometimes it would abruptly stop. That would make me sit up in bed in pitch darkness wondering, has she died? I would extend my hand to see if she was breathing. Like a dead engine that's been re-cranked, she would sputter, butter, say something gibberish, and start all over again. On pensive days, my grandmother spoke of my grandfather and his journeys on a railway train. My grandfather worked in the Indian Railways as a railway guard. She would often speak about him and tell me stories. In the corner of the bedroom stood my grandfather's big trunk. It was the only possession my grandmother had at home. My grandmother would spend hours sitting close to it. Every dent and every ding on that trunk had a story to be told. This trunk is yours when I'm gone, she would often tell me. Yes, Grandma, I promise I will keep it, I would assure her. Years passed. I finished college, left the country. It was in the year 1996 my father called me up one early morning and said, your grandma passed away in her sleep. Time stood still. I could not make it to see my grandmother one last time, but when I did stand in the bedroom, as silence ricocheted off the walls, I could feel it in the air. It was as if she was there. The big old trunk in the corner catches my misty eyes. I hobble up to it and I open it. Sitting on top of everything was my grandfather's white uniform, with its buttons shining like stars in a constellation. And all the papers I had written as a child, I ruffled through them, dripping them with my tears. As a child, I would often wonder what my grandmother gave me. I could not fathom it then, but now I realize it was the values of the trunk. I would often wonder what were those values that she gave me. And I realize it now, that knowing a person counted and your life would never be as rich as it if she was not there with you anymore is a value that's priceless. My grandmother had nothing except that trunk, yet she was happy. And she made sure I was happy, knowing that we are not always chasing riches and we are all beggars in this life in the end when we always seek the same simple things is a value that's priceless. My grandmother dallied with her dentures and snored in slumber. Boy, I really miss her now. Knowing that a person counted and the best days of your life would be the days you would casually spend with your loved ones is a value that's priceless. Elvis Presley put it right when he said, values are like our fingerprints. Each of us have a different set, and we leave them all over everything we do. What are the values you live by? What are the values you leave behind? Is a question definitely to be pondered. Now the big old trunk, oh yes, it still sits in the corner of my bedroom. I will give it to my son who promised to keep it. Because every value and every ding and dent on that trunk has a value to be passed on and on and on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
How much time did it take to prepare the speech?
It's been years, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It's like a mantra that goes on.
May I request Mr. Ram to come over here? And his name was referred several times. Last week you were not there, and you were taken as the person who people benefit from you, and you want to mention. Can you do the honors to Mr. Koka?
Can you come there?